A lot of homeschoolers will say that they want to help their children become high achieving adults or maybe successful adults. But very few homeschool parents are actually willing to build the culture that produces these successful or high achieving adults. And sometimes it's just a matter of they don't even know what they are supposed to be doing, or they have listened to advice that really is not going to produce what they're looking for. And this is a topic that I am super interested in. I'm really always talking about this, but I'm also reading a lot of different resources about this, and I recently came across one that really stood out. So I recently read this book. It's called Top of the Class: How Asian Parents Raise High Achievers. And it's written by two sisters, Sue Kim Abood and Jane Kim. And what struck me as I read through this book was it really had nothing to do with the curriculum. Neither of these ladies were homeschooled, but it was not the curriculum that they were talking about throughout this book. Really, they didn't bring that up much at all. What they were talking about was the culture of learning that was in their homes. So this book is not about ethnicity. It is not about the genes that you inherit, and it is not about becoming a tiger mom. What it's really about is culture. So if you want top tier academic results for your child, and let me just say really quickly, there's nothing wrong with wanting that. I feel like in the homeschool world, there's been a stigma created around wanting your child to do well academically. If you want those results for your child, it really all starts with the culture of your home and what you are training your child into, the habits that you are helping them create. You cannot get top tier results with habits that are just at the very bottom. So before we get any further into this video, I want to clear up a few things. This video is not how to become a tiger mom, and this book was not either. This book was excellent. I would highly, highly recommend it. This video is not about harshness. It is not about being emotionally cold towards your children if they aren't getting A++s. And it certainly is not about grinding your children into dust. And it's not about turning your home into a pressure cooker. We want our homes to be filled with love and of joy. There is a huge difference between emotional or intellectual abuse and high standards. There is a difference between a high pressure home and a home that runs on purpose. And there is also a difference between control and leadership. Children actually thrive under clear expectations and structure. What we're shooting for here are high standards paired with warmth. Structure lowers anxiety for both parents and children. Clarity in what you're going for builds security, and putting forth effort builds confidence in children. So if you hear me saying high standards and you're immediately thinking damage, then that is really a cultural assumption that is worth examining further. So let's talk about what actually produces high achievement according to the authors of this book. Number 1, instill delayed gratification and sacrifice. So high-performing educational cultures prioritize and normalize delayed gratification. We want to work before we play. We are looking for long-term rewards over short-term comfort, and discipline is a virtue. High-performing educational cultures are not structuring childhood around constant entertainment. And let me give you an example of what I'm talking about here. So one of my older sons and his fiance went out for Valentine's Day to a hibachi grill, where, you know, the type where the chef comes to the table and prepares everything and does some fun tricks. So that is very entertaining, watching him cook this food. And that's part of the dinner experience, is actually watching the chef prepare the food. You know, it's very entertaining, and I mean, it's beautiful, it's art, it deserves our appreciation. But my son and his fiance were telling me that not only were families showing up with children that were glued to iPads the whole time, but also most of the adults at the table were looking at their phones instead of watching this chef prepare the meal. So, you know, my son was completely baffled. He said, what's the point of going and watching this if, you know, I mean, that's part of what you're paying for. It's part of the whole experience. But so many people are just, they're looking for that short-term entertainment constantly. And their children are trained to, you know, only want that screen. So it's just a small example of making sure that you are training your children towards the right things and not training them towards this constant entertainment mentality. So if a child cannot delay gratification, they are going to have an incredibly difficult time pursuing excellence. It's really not in line. One is not in line with the other. So what does this look like in a homeschool? So it means math and all other subjects before screen time. It means getting those hard subjects done first when your brain is the most fresh. It means teaching your children to finish their work with excellence even when they don't feel like it. And it also means talking about long-term goals, not just today. And that doesn't mean that they have to plan out their future when they're 6, but it means helping them to understand how what they are doing today and the way that they're training themselves today is going to have a long-term impact and get them where they want to go or prevent them from getting where they want to go. So if your homeschool right now is constantly bending and retracting in the name of comfort, you will not end up getting elite results. Number 2, clearly define your child's role as student. So in these high achieving educational homes, the child's job is very, very clear. It is the job of a student. That is the child's primary responsibility, is getting the education that he is going to need to be a successful adult. My husband has actually had this conversation with many of our children throughout the years over and over again. If a child is saying, oh, well, I just really don't like this subject, or it's so boring, or I don't understand why I have to do this. My husband says, my job is to work hard to provide for the family. Your mother's job is to give you an education and to keep the household running. Your job right now is to become a student, a good student, and to give it all that you have. We all have to give it all that we have, every single one of us in this family. Nobody gets to just lay around and be lazy, basically. We're all working hard here, and your job right now is to be a student, which means that you need to be working hard at that. So a lot of the popular homeschool language that you hear, like, oh, we're just exploring, or we're just trying to see what our child is interested in and help him learn those things, or we're unschooling, or we're following his interests. None of those phrases really line up with this idea that the child's priority needs to be being a student. It is clarity that creates high performance. So in your homeschool, that's going to look like school hours, which means you're doing school during school hours. It means a defined workspace for your student if your home allows. I know that there are some homes where this is just impossible, and so you have to do double duty at the kitchen table or the kitchen counter or what have you, but trying to have a defined school space is always helpful. It's also important to have expectations around proper posture and paying attention and proper completion of work. So having standards around those areas. There also should be clear consequences when work is not done. So when the homeschool student's role is fuzzy, the results that student ends up getting are also fuzzy. Number 3, cultivate respect for elders and authority. So this is one of the areas that the book touched on that I felt like is one of those areas that sometimes we forget about. But it is so important for students to learn to respect authority because this makes them more teachable. They end up accepting correction. They don't argue about every little thing. They learn about hierarchy and where they fit into it. And respect for authority really trains receptivity. If you have a child that views every single correction as oppression, that child is going to have a very difficult time growing. And I'm not just talking about in the academic sense. I'm also speaking about in maturity as well. Number 4, play an active role in your child's education. Okay, so top performing educational families are not passive about education. Everyone is involved. Mom is involved, dad's involved, the student is involved, and everyone has their role. The parents are monitoring, they are correcting, they are paying attention to where their student is struggling so that they can get the student the help that they need. If the parents cannot help the student themselves, then they find the proper tutor or a friend who can help explain the concept. They follow up and they reteach the material until the student has it. If math is weak, they intervene. If handwriting is sloppy, they help the child to correct that. Excellence requires involvement. So this means daily math corrections. I know I'm always banging on about that one, but it is so important. It means reviewing written work, making sure that everything that your student is writing has proper capitalization, proper punctuation, proper spelling. Tracking those weak areas so that you can make sure that your student is improving and not just staying stuck. The involved parent watches for trends and makes sure that they don't become gaps. Number 5, limit extracurriculars that interfere with schoolwork. Okay, I have talked about this before. I'm not a huge fan of tons of extracurricular activities. I feel like extracurriculars need to be carefully chosen so that they do not disrupt the homeschool, certainly, also the family rhythm. So this means that if your child is involved in 3 different sports every season, your child is probably not getting schoolwork done. I mean, let's just be honest here. There are only so many hours in a day. So the priority needs to be the schoolwork. And then if there is extra time, that's the extra in extracurricular, then you can add something in. Bonus points if whatever you add in also helps with the academics. So for instance, formal music lessons are a beautiful addition to a homeschool because the studies have shown that music instruction actually helps the brain. And I'm not saying don't do any sports. I'm just saying choose wisely and make sure you're choosing something that is not going to take away from homeschool time. Number 6, surround your children with like-minded peers and role models. Okay, now I know that this one can be difficult because some of you live in an area where there are just not any homeschool families that are really trying to do well academically. I know that. But we still need to try as hard as we can to find families that value academics. So that might mean that it's not a homeschool family. It could be a private school family, or it could be a public school family that is working really hard to make sure that their child is receiving a full and complete and beautiful education. But we need to make sure that the people that we are surrounding ourselves with are people who are going to make us want to try harder, to work harder, to learn more and learn better, because the people that we spend time around, they really do influence us more than just about anything. So it's important. Number 7, accept responsibility with your child for failures. Honestly, this could be one of the most important ones. So in high achieving academic cultures, parents take responsibility. You're not going to hear them say, oh, well, he's just not academic, or, oh, well, he's really not a math person, or that's just how she is, or he's not wired for this. Instead, they are asking, what needs to change to help Johnny become proficient at math? Or where did we miss something? They take the responsibility. Or what adjustment is required here? What do we need to do differently? Do we need to cut in the budget so that we can hire a tutor? But the child is also expected to own some of this effort as well. Failure is treated more like feedback, so it's not an identity that the child is assigned. So all of this really boils down to, if you want top 1% results, then you also have to give top 1% effort. You cannot run a casual homeschool and expect elite results. Culture always precedes achievement. Now, you might be saying, Ashley, I really don't care about having a 1% homeschool, and that is totally fine. But are there some lessons in this video that you could apply that would make your homeschool run better or help your student to get better results? We all want better results for our students. Even if we don't want them to be the smartest person in the whole wide world, we want our students to do better. So if you want help building that type of a culture in your homeschool, that's why I've created the different resources that I have available. The Headmistress Circle gets you group coaching and a wonderful community of women who are all striving to improve their homeschools. And the Homeschool Schedule Blueprint will help you get the timing nailed in your homeschool so that you can actually start achieving those things that you set out to in the first place. Both of those are linked in the description box below. You have to remember, high achievement is not luck. It's not something that people stumble on. It is actually built with hard work. And most importantly, it is built with intention and purpose.